Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.52 Skull Pendants. It's the first week of October and autumn is right around the corner, and to celebrate my favorite time of year, I thought it would be fun to share this double-sided skull pendant with you all. One side is a zombie, the other side is sinister. It's a lot of fun and I hope you get some great ideas from this as we get into the holiday season. And with that said, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, I'm going to start this pendant out with a little bit of ivory, and I like to use the regular ivory for this one. If all you have is the dark ivory, that works just as well. It will give you kind of a veiny effect too, which it might be really nice. So I'm going to start out by getting a little bit of glass on my mandrel and winding it up, making sure that the mandrel is nice and hot where the glass is touching it. And what I'm doing right now is also trying to figure out the height of the skull, and it can vary depending on what you're looking for. So I am going to go ahead, it's about an inch tall, and I'm going to go ahead and work the edges down and make this first bead look real nice. And now we're going to build up how I like to do the skull. And you know, there's the jaw part and then there's the head part. So we're going to work on the jaw first, and I'm going to add a couple wraps of glass on the very bottom. I'll add a little bit more there just to even things out, and it's not quite even, so I'll add a little bit more just to make it rounder. Okay, and then I'm going to heat that in just a little bit. It's right at the end of the bead. And I'm just going to soften it down, but keep it down there at the end. And then what I want to do is, as that is cooling, I'm going to start adding some glass to the top part. So I'm going to add kind of in the center, right where that cinched part is. And then I'll add a little bit to the top. You can add the glass any way you'd like. I just prefer to add a couple of wraps and then heat them all together. But if you feel more comfortable adding like a thick amount of glass right there, then go ahead and do it. These are just suggestions. Okay, so now that I have, like, see how I'm trying to emulate the shape of a skull with my wrap. So the first one is small, the second one is larger because that's the top of the head. And I'm going to start to heat just both of those together, making sure the bottom part stays cool. And then we're going to have this kind of skull shape here. All right, so now my next step is to press this down. So I have a knife here, and I'm just going to start to very gently press down. I don't want to flatten it out too much. I want to keep it nice and thick. Okay, so I'm going to start shaping it a little bit on the bottom with my knife, and then here is where I get the sides immediately. I'll get the sides of the jaw, and I'll pull them in with my knife. I kind of press into the corner right there and then lift up until I have a nice flat edge. All right, and then I'm going to just continue to shape it up until I like the shape. And it's this shape, I just want to crisp things up just a little bit. And then the top part for the head, I thought it would be, I wanted it a little bigger, so I'm going to flatten that out. It all depends on, you know, what you want with this skull pendant. So you'll shape it any way you want. A little bigger here, a little smaller there. Add a little bit more if you need to. Okay, so let's start out with the sinister face. And I'm going to add 2 dots of just black glass. A little bit more. I want these kind of large. Make sure they're not too close together or too high or too low. Even though the eyes would look better lower than higher. And I'm going to heat those up and flatten them down real nice, making sure there's space in between. All right, now let's give it the sinister eyebrows. It took me a second to figure this out. So here's my pattern. I'm going to put a dot in the top of the middle of the 2 eyes, and then I'm going to add some dots like 3 dots just at the very top in a slight curve, and then a little on top of that. I hope you can see this. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm just going to add a few dots, just going kind of up at a high angle. You don't want too much of the eye to be hidden. So I like to keep these up high. And then I'm going to pull the sides out so they naturally flow into the glass behind it. And it will become, you know how sometimes you'll add glass and you can see where you added it? Well, this ivory will look pretty good. So let me tell you what I'm doing here. I'm heating just the top part. I don't want to heat the bottom half where the eyes are here, because the glass, I don't want it to flow towards the eyes. I want it to flow up towards the head. So I'm heating that where I want the glass to go, and then I'm gently melting it down. And I didn't press it down all the way here because it'll kind of melt itself down later on. All right, let's put the nose in. So what I do is I have a tiny, tiny bit of glass, and I put the dot on, and then I pull up a little bit. And then I pull a little tiny stringer off the very top. There's a whole bunch of different ways to make a little nostril, but this way works well for me. Now I'm going to shape it up a little bit. So you're adding a very small dot, putting it down where the top and the bottom of the skull meet, and then just lifting up, and I'll pull that little point off the top because I want less glass on the top of the nostril than the bottom. And then when I go to heat this up, I'll heat right below the nostril where I want the glass to flow towards the bottom. Press it down a couple times, and now we're ready to put in the mouth. So a couple months ago, I did a utensil video using a cut spoon, and it was really cool. So I thought this would be perfect to heat and press in for the mouth. And I was right. I just love the way this is looking, you guys. Okay, so now let's put some teeth in, and I'll go ahead and use a flat razor blade for this. So I'm going to just add a couple. I'm only heating at the bottom of the jaw at this point. I don't want to mess up the nostrils. Just try to heat where you have to. And there is the teeth. So that's it for that one side. Now, here's the important part as I heat the top of the glass here and get that glass to kind of melt a little further into the top of the skull. While I'm doing this other side of the skull, I am constantly warming the sinister side because I have to put that down and flatten it. So you'll see that. Always maintain heat in the whole bead at all times. So this time I'm going to add 2 dots of black for the eyes, same way as last time. Make sure they're far apart, and we'll flatten those in. And then we're going to add a little bit of white, same size, right in the center. Try to get it right in the center of the black. If you don't get it quite in the center, that's okay. And then we're going to slowly heat these up. And I want these to be soft enough to press down again and just slowly incorporate them into your piece. Just pressing very gently. And then I just am reheating everything just to make sure, you know, the back is happy. You always want the back to be happy because now we're pressing down on the back side, and it cools the back side every time you lay it down. So make sure you maintain heat on the back, but not too much to flatten it. Okay, so I have a green yellow transparent, a really light color, and I'm just going to add a big blob right on top of the white. Like I want to touch the whole white disc, but not quite the black. If you do go over the black, that's fine. I'm just trying to get a nice ball of glass just on the white. And then here, I don't want the glass to heat together. So you'll notice I'm heating at all sides to get these 2 dots to melt evenly on top of each other. They kind of look like eggs right there. Okay, let's go ahead and put the nostril in now. Nostrils, a little tiny dot and pulling up and out. And then just grabbing the top of that and pulling out a little stringer's worth. Sometimes it pulls the ivory out, but it'll still look good. Same thing on the other side. The nostrils can really be tricky, so sometimes you can just put 2 little tiny dots down and pull them up a little bit. I had to work at these for a while until I felt comfortable about it. And also the interesting thing is that this green color, this green yellow I had some bubbles in it. So it looks like there's eyeballs in there already, or pupils. Okay, we're going to flatten down the nostrils, make sure everything is nice and warm. And then we're going to heat up the mouth area and go ahead and just use a straight razor and get kind of a off-centered stare happening here. A couple of teeth on the other side. And that is it for our zombie sinister skull pendant. I'm going to add a little bit here, just 2 little tiny pupils staring out. You don't have to do this part, but you don't have to do any of this. This is all for inspiration, and if you want to use these characters, I would be so flattered. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this and have a wonderful October. See you next time in the dungeon.